You're listening to Real Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out realradio.com. Welcome to Real Radio. This is the Real Estate Rundown with Owen and Ted Kosh. And Aiden Bear.
Nice little add-on there.
Stella Hahn in town this week.
Hello, Stella.
Hello, Stella.
Is that all you got?
Yeah, that's fun. I love the awkward look you had.
Stella Hahn, describe what your anxiety level was when the day of the Omaha RIA was
Storms.
about to happen. Stella's flying in from Houston.
She's coming
Dallas.
she's from San Francisco, but she was coming from Houston because she just did a Pace Morby event.
And she was there for like 3 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so coming in hot.
Speaking with her partnership that she's doing with Pace.
Yeah, so she flew in for the Omaha RIA event, did a kick-ass presentation. And what was your stress level like that day, Ted, and why?
Well, so first off, we get word that the weather is not going to be great, just like it was when Jason Drees. But Jason Drees was a blizzard. This one, we're told tornadoes and hailstorm. And I was like, Stella, don't worry. We have the Oma-dome. She's like, what?
What is the Oma-dome? We've never really talked about that much.
So here in Omaha, there's a myth that there's a dome that comes over the city that pretty much every storm comes, just parts ways and goes around the city. And we get the warnings, but it doesn't hit us most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. So any metropolitan area that has a lot of concrete, typically that heats up and it diverts low pressure. Hopefully,
let's avoid all this technical stuff.
So anyway, we typically don't get the brunt of what the meteorologist is predicting for the upcoming weather event.
But because of all the fun stuff, Stella had to change flights in the morning because the flight got delayed or canceled. And then, so she had to switch to a whole new airline. She was supposed to be in like noon, and then was supposed to be in at like 4, and then arrived finally at like 5:05. And then our event's at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And like originally I'm like, hey, we're going to go do some lunch when you get in town. You know, I'll show you around a little bit as we're going in. And then, of course it's just this mounting. So I literally am like calling Owen. I'm like, dude, okay, so
what's the backup plan? Like, what can we do?
Let's talk here. And Owen's like, we're just gonna put a panel together. Here, we'll call Dan Zimmerman. We'll get Wyatt and a couple other people.
Yeah,
and I'm like, great idea. We'll just read the room and create something off a panel. We can make that happen really easy.
Thankfully, that didn't end up coming to fruition because Stella made it, and
then the Oma-dome dropped.
Yep.
And literally the skies went gray, but the storm parted, like this huge storm just parted around Omaha and then split.
Yeah. Usually South Omaha gets hammered, or like the Sarpy County area, Bellevue and so forth.
I will vouch for that. I got rentals there.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm glad because, okay, so Midwest, for those of you listening that aren't from here, we get the worst weather in every season. So in the winter, it's, sub 30 degree wind chill. It's springtime, flooding, hail, tornadoes, etc. Summer is like horrible heat and humidity. And then fall is briefly nice for about 2 weeks.
And there's really good days.
There are good days. And it could be in February. It could be in July. But you don't know. You have no idea when it's going to happen.
I mean, this year, winter didn't really happen until like March.
Yeah. I mean,
weird winter.
We had a cold snap there in what was it, February? I think where we got down to 30 below wind chill.
But prior to that, is winter coming?
Not much snow. Yeah, it was really dry winter.
I'm sitting there. I'm like, why is my car in storage? I want to pull it out.
Yeah, and then hello, Fool's Spring is what we call it.
Yes. So she comes, she speaks, but prior to her coming on, I'm starting to get calls from like local sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Storm's gonna be bad. I'm not gonna attend. And I'm like, if the sponsors aren't showing up,
that's not a good sign.
Then, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people. And we still had over 110 people show up, which was great for, potential storm night.
Mm-hmm.
But I am anticipating, honestly, that we probably would have had anywhere from 30 to 40 more people there if we didn't have this threat of bad weather.
I can't disagree with that. I think that's probably right. But, it's not... I felt bad, man. Like I'm empathetic typically. And like when I'm watching your texts and talking to you and whatever, I was like, oh my God, I'm absorbing his stress right now. And I was like,
I appreciated that though. Cause I reached out to you and you settled it down. You gave me some quick answers and it really kind of like took some of the pressure off.
yeah, we would have figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but then, we might as well bring it up, so Megan Ahern gives us a call like the next day.
Oh,
and we just got done recording with Brandon Turner, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode on 200.2. But we had Brandon on, and then Megan's like, "Hey, so just so you know, Brandon's willing to come into town if you were willing to buy 50 tickets to the summit, but like we would have to put an event together within like 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah,
to be able,
not ideal.
Yeah, and also potentially putting between the tickets and everything else, it would cost you an event of that size. I think we calculate about $77,000 going out of our pocket to to get a different venue, food, like all the stuff, right? Yeah.
We just kind of came to the conclusion that it was like, okay, like I don't think we can do this justice in this amount of time, because those big events like that are, when you have a good presence, a good speaker coming in, you need some marketing time. You need some people to like commit and all that.
Sponsors to commit.
Yeah. So it was very stressful there for about 24 hours. And then we finally were just like, I don't think we're going to be able to do this justice.
So Owen has a caffeine cap rates event that's here in town, like a little like coffee meetup group in the morning. And if we didn't have that group to kind of throw the ideas on, we probably would have moved forward with it.
Probably. Yeah. That maybe would have happened. Yeah.
And my wife is like, she called me like during that event.
Okay.
And I stepped out because she wanted to talk to me. And I was telling her about that. She's like, I know you don't listen to me, but I don't think you should do this. and then she was like, and don't forget the last time I told you not to do something, aka the 4 unit that you bought, the fire. And I'm like,
she's never gonna let you live that down.
I'm gonna have to like make $1 million in 1 year to make that go away.
So what we did was, at Caffeine and Cap Rates, we did basically a deep dive into adaptive reuse. So taking hotel properties, turning them into multifamily, and Andrea Foley, one of my business partners, did an awesome job at breaking all that down, and it was really good. And I feel like everybody in the group got a lot out of that. But yeah, we kind of went around the room and we said, okay, here's our dilemma.
It was like your Caffeine Cap Rates was like a focus group.
Yes, it totally was. Yeah, like small group, and we kind of went around the room. We described the problem, and everybody was kind of like, yeah, I don't think this is going to go well if you try and pull this
But it
off.
Was good. It was good feedback.
Really good feedback.
Because if we were to do an event like that, we'd expect every person in the room to be there.
Yeah. And they knew that. They probably knew that. They're like, I don't know.
Like what price point?
Yeah.
How soon?
Yeah. So anyway, we had a really good opportunity there. Hopefully, Beardy Brandon will grace us with his presence at some point in the future.
I did leave out with Megan. I was like, if you want to try this next year, and then we'll
be better prepared.
Give us like 6 months or something to like put something good together and promote it.
Yeah,
I go, we're down.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that was a lot of stuff going on this week. I had a couple of properties that were a pain in the butt that I've been trying to sell for a while that we got under contract and they finally closed yesterday.
Multi.
These are single. Well, one was a duplex, one was a single, and then we finally got those closed. And then yesterday, the day before, we got one under contract that we've been listed for a while on. So that was good. So I'm clearing out some inventory, and yeah, I feel good.
Like, is this like your personal inventory, or is this like with your partner?
Both of these are with partners. So the two we sold one was a long-term rental and one was a flip. And then we have another flip that we just got under contract. So
what was your guys' inspiration to sell these?
Well, the one we held long term it was just not in a great area. It was just one of those outliers in our portfolio where we looked at it, we said, this is a one-off. We bought it, we refied it because we were able to get a killer deal and it would cash flow like crazy. And ended up moving a couple family members into it. And it wasn't the best investment. We'll just put it that way. But we made a lot of money on the back end of it because we were able to, get such a good deal on the front end. And we sold it and we're recapitalizing. And
so 1031?
No. This was just like getting money out of it and then making our next move. And this leads to a conversation we have periodically, which is keep everything or sell the ones that don't make sense and whatever. Like, I know you've kind of switched hats a lot on this with...
I mean, I like to hold everything, but life happens.
Yeah, and then... I just looked at it. This one in particular was a conversion property. So it was originally a big house. in not a great part of town. Flood insurance, we had to have a policy on that.
Yeah.
We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before.
Probably made it harder to sell, too.
Well, not really. I mean, we got a bunch of showings right away, went under contract really fast, and, we're probably going to make, I think we bought it for like 65 grand and probably have put in, I'm going to say less than 30, over the probably 3 years we've owned it. And we sold it for right around 200.
Got it.
So there was a really good chunk of equity. And then now we have, we can make moves with that.
It's off topic, but did they have split utilities?
Yeah, it was separately metered.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And separate furnace and everything too?
No, one furnace.
One furnace for the whole building.
Yep. This is Council Bluffs.
Oh,
not Omaha.
So yeah.
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
I mean, that's the biggest. I have a 5-unit and it's one furnace and, one air conditioning system. But as an Airbnb, I'm fine. But when it comes to selling it, it's a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, the people that bought this bought it as a single family because that's how we were operating it. Was since I had my brother-in-law and his son were living in it with the upstairs, downstairs. That's how it was set up. Basically a 2-story duplex. Mm-hmm. And, they were living there as a single family dwelling, and that's how we were operating it. So we sold it that way, and the buyers got a huge house. You could set it up exactly as a duplex if you wanted to. It would be pretty easy to, it had separate electric meters, but one furnace. Mm-hmm. That's how it was. And, we probably made 100 grand on it.
I had my electrician at my place recently to take a look at something, and I was like, he's looking at things like how it's wired. I was like, yeah, some idiot before me had separate meters for every room or for every unit.
Yeah.
And they took them all out and combined them into one. And then somewhere in the remodel started wiring because I had a breaker that kept on going bad. And I'm like, yeah, when that breaker's off, half of 3 units turn off. And he's like, why? He's like, it was all separately metered. I'm like, trust me. Also had separate gas units too. And they put
Why? Why would you do that?
I was told
it was a 5-unit, right?
Yes. I was told that he was paying all utilities and he didn't like paying all the meters.
So he didn't know how to charge back rubs?
Nope. And so in the basement, you could see where every gas meter was, and they're just all combined. And those are all still separated technically. That'd be an easy flip, but the electrical, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
Especially after I've done like a 350,000 remodel on the place.
So this is one of maybe, I'm going to say like 3 or 4 conversions I've ever bought. Conversions meaning it's single family, but it's chopped up into multifamily units. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it's separately metered, maybe it's not. But I typically avoid those like the plague because of the reason you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, full disclosure, when I bought this, I had all intentions of having separate electrical boxes in every unit.
Mm. And then you looked at the budget?
No, the guy that bid it for me gave me a number. And I walked it with him when I walked it with my contractor at the time.
Okay.
And I'm going unit by unit. And then he gave me a number. And I'm like, and it was like 150.
Mm.
He's like, yep, remodel, separating electrical per unit, da-da-da. And I'm like, damn, this is a no-brainer. I'm buying it for 150 rehab. Banks like tell me it's going to be worth 500,000. Let's go, right? And then now own it. I'm like, come on, let's get these official bids. Let's go. And then the rehab like budget bumped all the way up to like 300 grand at the time. And I didn't have the number, and he's like, I made a mistake. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So then that's when I was like, I had to look up for an alternative. And that's when I went down the Airbnb route, midterm route, because
you were trying to crank out better cash flow out of the deal to make up for the construction
for the mistake.
Costs. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, this is a great example of how things. Man, it's so tough when you're dealing with contractors, because if you're dealing with a GC that's like a, higher level, like they put it out to subs, they get bids from the subs, they consolidate that into a bid for you and so forth, where it sounds almost like you were dealing with a residential contractor that maybe wasn't operating as a GC. They were like, oh yeah, I think I can do it for this.
He was with a very large company.
Oh,
and then after this, he got fired.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what the hell this guy's deal was.
Yeah, so it's kind of like one of the lessons learned, is like, you may go into it thinking one thing, and then all of a sudden your numbers drastically change, and then this is how you adapt. You're still alive. I mean, this is a good thing.
And the units and the property's making money.
Yeah.
It's been working out. The funny thing is when I had that electrical contractor in, I was like, just humor me. If I really wanted to like put a separate electrical box in all these units, what am I talking about? And he's like, I would have to do some cutting.
Right.
And he goes, I think I can do it for about 10,000 a unit.
That's really high.
But I mean, the wires are intermixed with other units.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That seems super high.
To me, the number makes sense, to be honest with you. A full rewire and adding an electrical box per unit that isn't
Would they
there.
have to rewire the whole thing though, or would they just have to disconnect it and reroute it? That's my whole thing about that. Like the reason I'm saying this is because I've had what you're talking about done for a lot cheaper. Now, granted, time has proven that, inflation is real, but I don't know, man. I think 10K is high for doing a full rewire and remetering.
Well, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, I remodeled this thing in 2021, 22 time frame, and at that time priced for $500.
Well, okay. Look, here's an example. So, you run the Omaha RIA Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
So this is a 9,000 member group. It's a pretty active. Generally there's 25 posts a day probably in this.
I mean, I probably delete 20 a day from spam.
There's a lot of people, and generally when you join like a RIA or a real estate investing group, there's a lot of activity in there, and a lot of times what it ends up being is people will ask for contractor referrals. Like that's very common.
It's 90% of the posts.
Yeah, so people are like, "Hey, I need this done," and they show a picture of a house. And they'll be like, I need somebody that can do, porch railings, or they can do whatever, decking or electrical stuff or whatever. And then people will just respond. There'll be like 20 people that will reply, and they'll be like, hey, here's this guy I've used and he's really good, and try him. And then there will be other like self-promoting people that will be like, oh, try XYZ electrical, and they own it. You know what I mean? So that's always annoying to me. It's self-promotion. Okay, so one of the posts that I noticed the other day, somebody was like, hey, I need an egress window put in to convert basically a lower level bedroom into a legal bedroom, where they can add an egress window as a point of escape in case of a fire. And that's a legal requirement. So look into that if you're going to ever try this. And they're like, what is a good price for an egress window install? And you saw people responding that were like, oh, I pay my guy $2,800. And then somebody else is like, oh no, you need to have at least $5,000 to $6,000 to do it right. If you want to do it right, here's the price. And I'm like, this is 100% difference in pricing.
Okay, so I sold egress windows for a living room at one point, and honestly, the prices range from $2,000 to $7,000.
Yeah,
but the difference is,
tell me the difference.
Okay, so your $2,000 one or $2,800 one, whatever it is, literally it's a dig out. You're just putting some crushed rock on the bottom, and it's a metal surround. Generally, it's going to include a really cheap window, and then you're done. Now, to go to the complete opposite end of that, for the $7,000, it's going to be a couple different things. So first off, it's going to be a dig out. It's going to be a higher end window with usually trim and finish on both sides. They make different windows that open up a little bit more to be a little more safe. So on the window side, you're generally getting something that's a little bit higher quality. But the big thing that you're really paying for is two things. First off, on those, they're usually like what they call a rock well, which looks like fake rock, and they have ladder systems built in there. Also, they're going to generally dig down several feet. And then they dig down, and then they put corrugated piping in, and that corrugated piping will go to one of two areas. Now, if your property has interior draining systems or exterior draining systems, the piping will go into it, because one of the biggest issues with egress windows is you get a bad storm, those flood. Or if you have high groundwater, they come up through there and they'll flood into the unit, ruining your property, right? So if you have a drain tile system already there, they'll connect it and it goes into the sump pump system.
Okay.
So that protects you. Or if they don't, they actually dig out 2 to 3 feet out behind the egress and then create a big box that's deeper than your current egress window. And
so all the water will flow to that.
Run a drain line to it and then fill it with crushed rock.
Okay.
So the water goes away from the house. So that is the difference that you're going to pay for. And in the end, if you're doing it right, if it's a property you plan on keeping,
you're not flipping it, you're keeping it,
especially your personal home.
Yeah,
that is extremely important to prevent your house from flooding.
I did not know any of this. I've just paid the cheaper, most of what I've done this for is flips, because if you can add a bedroom, that's a huge value add.
Yeah.
Actually, let me ask you this. I'm putting you on the spot with this question. If you add a bedroom to a house, let's say it's regularly a 2-bedroom above grade, and you can add an egress window to put an additional bedroom in the unit, what kind of value does that add? as a real estate agent?
I mean, it's honestly completely based on comps for the area.
Okay.
And so it can go night and day, but a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, you're going from a less desirable market to opening yourself up to a whole nother potential buyers.
Yeah.
So anytime that you have ability to go to a 3-bedroom unit, just in general for like searches and desirability, you're putting yourself in a market potentially that be getting multiple offers and more eyes on your property, which has a value in it itself.
Okay, gun to your head. I have a gun to your head right now, Ted.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
You are in Omaha, Nebraska, Midwest market.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to buy a split level, I think everywhere in America has these houses. They're split levels. In Omaha, Nebraska, you can buy one for $250,000 in a pretty good area. Would you agree with that?
I think that's low right now, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
No, I mean, you can find them. Like they pop up all the time. Like all the time I get $250,000
3-bed, 2-bath,
split level, 1 or 2 car garage, depending. It'll swing, let's say $10,000, $15,000, whatever. What kind of value does going from a 2-bed to a 3-bed? Assuming you have the same square footage, but now you have an extra bedroom, what does that add?
If I had to guess, at least 30,000.
Okay, so if I'm going to pay,
depending on part time,
all right. If I'm going to pay, let's say I want to go mid grade, and I'm not going to pay for the $2,800 one. I'm going to pay for the $5,000 one that doesn't do all the bells and whistles because I'm not living in the property, but I want to make sure it's safe. It's not going to flood. I'm going to pay $5,000. I have to frame out a bedroom in the basement and drywall it at, put outlets in, make sure heating and air is available in the room, put flooring in. That's about it, right? Closet, right? So let's call it, based on all that, let's call it $15,000. You think that's...
You do more flips than I do, so
I'm going to call it 15. I could do it for 15 for sure, like 100%. So $15K, if you're flipping, could equal $30K in added value.
I mean, there's an area town that we call South Omaha, and very popular rental area. And I have a listing that I'm trying to sell off market right now before I list it in the market for a client. And he's like, "Yeah, it's a 2-bedroom now. I can add a 3rd bedroom to this, And so if there's a potential buyer, so I have a buyer, and he actually had me run comps on this, and as is a very nice house, renovated with a garage, literally across the street from the zoo, which is a great spot. It's an Airbnb right now. And as is, I priced that at $150, and it's a nice brick Tudor.
Okay.
But moving it into a 3-bedroom category in that same one, the comps actually were reaching over 210 and 215 in that particular area.
Yeah, 3rd bedroom is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, because then you have...
And rent-wise, it is.
You're not just talking about like roommates, or maybe you have like, a couple with one kid. You're talking about a family. They want some room. They want to expand a little bit. Having that 3rd bedroom is a game changer. And adding that in the basement, I'm going to go ahead and call this today's Golden Nugget. So whenever you have the opportunity for wasted space, to convert that into something usable that a family could come into, or whoever's going to buy your property or rent it, if you can add 100, 200 extra square feet of livable, usable space by adding an egress window and heating and air and a closet, you should absolutely do it. Right? Would you agree with this?
I do. And there's a neighborhood that we've been having our eyes on. It's in our kids' neighborhood. Locally, it's called Rockbrook. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a couple houses in that neighborhood. One just came up for sale, and I was really looking at it really hard. And they took the very large 2-car garage, completely renovated it into a part of the house, an extension of the home.
Okay. And so they made it into a one car.
No, they actually took, and then they built a large 2-car garage unattached from the home.
Oh,
just to get that square footage, because that area is extremely desirable, and to add that extra square footage. I'm seeing that more and more in that area.
So I was every once in a while, I'll just try to get a ballpark idea of what stuff costs. So I'll text a couple of contractors I've worked with for a long time, and I'll be like, okay, same deal, gun to your head. You had to give me a quote. I know it varies based on grading and blah, blah, blah. But if I was going to put in a 2-car detached garage, what would that cost? And this is actually pretty funny. Not funny, haha, but like funny because it swung so much. In probably 5 years, the cost went from $25,000 to $50,000 to do a 2-car garage.
Why so much?
Yeah, because of materials and labor and all that. Like that's how much it costs now. So I don't know if anybody can poke holes in that theory, but that's my number I'm operating on. If I see a property and it has no garage, or maybe it has a crappy one car, and you want to add, more storage space, parking space, etc., make it more accessible for families, $50K is probably the number, because you have to picture you're going to run power to it. You're going to, build basically a, 2-car garage is, let's call it roughly 500 square feet, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's unfinished. It just seems that number just seems crazy high.
But you have to imagine, you have to pour the concrete. You have to frame out the whole, the whole thing. You have to roof it. You have to add gutters. You have to add electrical. You have to
windows, garage doors.
Yes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So all that right now, I think $50K, at least Omaha, Nebraska, snapshot in time now is going to cost you about $50K to build a 2-car. Anybody that disagrees with that, I'd love to talk to you, at least if you can do it for less.
I would love to know that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was today's
Golden Nugget. I love that. Well, hey, we got a great podcast coming for you on Wednesday.
Oh, man.
We got Kyle Aho.
You're going to love this, and he's not an Aho, as, if you're going to take the slang term here, but...
What took us so long to get him on?
It did. So we met Kyle about, I think, 4 years ago.
And he's got a mustache you'll never forget.
A very good mustache.
Yes,
He's for sure a firefighter or a cop in a former life, because he rocks that thing. You'll listen to the episode and you'll figure out apparently there's a certain dollar amount, or maybe an uncertain dollar amount, that it would cost for you to pay him to not have a mustache, and it's a big number.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that.
Me too.
Yeah.
But anyway, super cool guy, very down to earth, great story, humble, has a great family, and
heavily faith-based.
Yeah, faith-based, family-based type of a guy, really doing a ton for his community. Born and raised in northern Michigan, just like Kid Rock. Although Kid Rock is from Detroit, or so he claims. It depends on what kind of song he's singing. But we'll explore the depths of Kyle Aho here coming up in Wednesday's episode. He's like a closet baller. Like, I have talked to him a few times since the first time I met him, and I didn't know he had 315 units. I just teased that, but
or 3 kids,
or 3 kids.
But he doesn't like to talk about his unit size.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, unit size. That's funny. But this is going to explore how he has basically done this all in a town the size of 77,000 people. Okay, for those of you locals, that's Council Bluffs. All right. So imagine going from 2010, when you have nothing, to 15 years later, and you've assembled a portfolio of 315 units, and have also, by the way, he runs a flipping business. He has, what did he say? He had 11 employees, and then he grew it.
18.
I think it's like 8. Okay.
18
employees. So we'll call it between 10 and 20 employees. And has vertically integrated his real estate acquisition and disposition business, property management. We cover a wide range of stuff in this episode. It's a long one, but buckle up, because you are going to learn some stuff from this guy.
And Kyle is only 33 years old.
33 years old. And completely insane, like what he's done in that amount of time.
I mean, our producer looks older than him.
Oh, by the way, he is also going to be a featured speaker at REI Summit.
Yeah.
That is coming up in Austin, Texas, June 1st through 3rd.
Maybe we just need to find out everybody's on the REI Summit and just
I know, like we have a lot of our friends are on there. Colin Schwartz, those of you that know Colin locally here, he's run the Omaha real estate meetup for years. He's going to be a featured speaker, as well as Megan Ahern, the Tatty investor, who all of you know and love. And like so many other people, like this is going to be like old home week when we go there.
When you go, you're literally going to I know all the speakers. Yo,
I know. I know. I like, this is my chance, man. I'm going to look like a baller. I just hope I have a lot of photo ops there.
A lot of old fashions in your future.
Probably. Yes.
Well, guys, we appreciate you guys listening to us. If you guys really love the content put out there, which we hope you do, please leave us a review. A written review would be great, and we will read those online. We haven't read one in so long, and we want to read those out where we have fun reading them. It warms our hearts and gives Owen tinglies.
Warm fuzzies.
Yep. So with that, Owen Dasher, will you see us out?
On behalf of Aiden Bear, Ted Kosh, and Rhea Radio, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to the
Real Estate Rundown.